Awesome. Well, let's get started. What's working in social for you right now? Let's start with Kelsey here right now. Give us an example of things that are going well. Now, Kelsey has an interesting role because she's at Time Warner Cable. Raise your hand if you have Time Warner Cable at home. More than half of the room just raised their hand. And we're not going to get sentiment on that, but Kelsey has an interesting role. Why don't you tell us about what's working?
So, I mean, we're the largest provider in SoCal, but we're not just limited to this area. We're in 29 states. We have hundreds of thousands of customers, over 50,000 employees. So this isn't, a small feat of any kind. We're really expanding, and what's working for us, you all are customers. What's working for us is to focus on our customers. My role is to manage 10 regional handles with Time Warner Cable, and we decided to create these regional handles because we have our regular @TWC. But that is a little bit more marketing focused. We love to provide you guys with sweepstakes and exclusives and talk about what shows are going on. But what about what's going on in your community? What about when you have a question for Time Warner Cable? So the regional handles allow for our customers to have a much closer relationship with your cable provider, which is the most important thing. What's in right now is customer care. We have a dedicated 24/7 care handle, which is TWC_help. And it's to the point now where I don't even need to promote it as much as I used to. Customers know, and you are a testament to that. She came in and she said, oh, I tweeted, TWC Help responded. They combed through the Twitter sphere and Facebook universe to find out when anyone even says the word Time Warner. And we have the challenge of Time Warner Cable, TWC. We have so many acronyms and names, it's very hard to find us or for me to, analytics is another thing when I'm trying to figure things out. But what's most important right now, I think, is to have that one-on-one with your customers. If you have a company and you have a clientele base, especially where you have hundreds of thousands of customers, you need to find a social media tactic to reach out to them because people want instant gratification and they're able to find it with Time Warner Cable Help. So I think that's what's really working for us right now, in addition to a couple other things, but I'll let you guys.
So at savings.com, we have 3 different segments of customers. We have bloggers that we work with who rely on us for tools and programs to help their business. We have our merchants that we work with, like HP and Best Buy and Macy's and all of these different brands who rely on us to provide them with distribution channels for their offers. And we also have consumers who are looking to us for great deals on stuff. So I'm mainly going to be talking about what's working as far as working with our blogging customers. And from the last panel, it sounds like there's a lot of interest in that, and it's really important right now. So what's working is, well, for the past 5 years, it's been my job to develop relationships with a number of bloggers, and that has worked. So we've gone to conferences, we found them on social media, we've connected with them face-to-face. And it's really helped us to learn what they're interested in, what they need for their businesses, and it's helped us develop programs and campaigns that are beneficial to them.
So the world of Experian has a lot of different offerings. So a lot of them have to do with B2B. A lot of them have to do with marketing services or data analytics. We also have a lot of consumer products, consumer opportunities. Like we can protect your ID, we can watch identity fraud for you, we can watch your presence on the social web and make sure everything's good there. I was hired on a year ago because on the consumer side, a behavior that we noticed was that people would engage with our product. They would join. Consumers would see the freecreditreport.com commercials with the band, and they the commercials maybe, and they'd engage with the product, but we noticed that they wouldn't continue to engage. They didn't know everything that was out there. Well, the solution is to really get in there on social media and find out what they're missing and provide it for them. So in the last year, my efforts have been to identify all of the opportunities on social to integrate with the rest of everything that we're doing. So listening to individual people, bringing them in front of 2,000 people at our all-team meetings and saying, this guy says we don't do this enough. Do we? We do. How do we communicate it with him? So we're now shifting a lot of our resources and a lot of our focus into creating a personalized one-to-one experience with our users on the web. So my answer would be, keeping the broadcast is great. It gets stuck in your head. You know it's out there. It's top of mind. But then my answer to what the most important thing is right now that we're doing with social is creating those personalized, directed, one-to-one experiences with our users and customers.
Great answer. Michelle?
So what's working in social for farmers right now, I think, is number one, a focus on service and customer service. With millions of customers across the U.S., we want to make sure that anytime someone reaches out to us or is talking about farmers insurance, that they're getting exactly the help that they need right when they need it. So we work very closely with our customer service department to respond as quickly as possible to any sorts of inquiries or any sorts of chatter on social. But I think another piece more on the corporate side, when it comes to content creation, is that over the past year, and particularly the past 6 months, for social, as Farmers has been really working on honing the voice and the tone of our content to make sure that it is personable, it's in line with the brand, and that when you encounter Farmers content, that it really sounds like it's a real person and that that person embodies what the Farmers brand is about. So really, through the end of the year and going into next year, it's really nailing down that very specific voice so that when you see Farmers anywhere on social, you feel like you're talking to the same person. Another piece, and I think that's working for Farmers, that we're working toward anyway, and that works for other companies very well, is this omni-channel focus, so that no matter where you encounter the company, whether it's social, their website, customer service, that you're getting a consistent experience, a consistent level of service, and a consistent message. So that's definitely something that we're working towards, but I feel across the board serves every company pretty well.
That's very cool. Tell us what's not working. Kelsey?
So I think the kind of the feel of social media, it evolves every day, every hour. And I think one of the main things that is not working is robotic sounding tweets. I mean, we all naturally have to schedule out tweets. We have an organizational goal and feel that we need to reach, but for us, it's become more about quality than quantity. It's about not putting out as many tweets and trying to gain as many followers. It's trying to gain quality followers, the right bloggers, and most importantly, for my regional handles, for Time Warner Cable's regional handles, is to gain the right reporters. We want to be able to have a relationship with them, virtual as it may be, but they will retweet us time and time again if they understand that we're launching another project, or another product or a service, or we launched Intelligent Home, or we launched a new DVR, things like that. They will follow us and get that information from us because they know that we're not sending robotic tweets, we're replying. I encourage my team to constantly reply, not just retweet. You don't show up to a party and just say, hey, I'm here, but not talk to anyone. So we really encourage the engagement. It seriously is about not just replying to customers, but to people who are going to influence your brand. And the Time Warner Cable brand is essential to us. And that's just because we do have confusion. Some people call us Time Warner. Time Warner is a completely different company. So we want people to become accustomed to having that cable behind it. And we want for reporters to know our handles. We want for customers to know how to find us. And it's really all about that back and forward engagement. We get customers touting texts that go to their house. We want that to keep going. So if you just retweet it, that's not going to work. You need to reply to them and they'll start following you. And it's more about the quality than it is the quantity. I think that's the whole robotic thing is just not working anymore. At the beginning, we just wanted as many followers as possible. And now it's about the right kind of followers.
Good answer, Sarah.
Great. So there are two things, I think. So the first one is focusing on both our numbers as a company and the numbers of the bloggers that we're working with. So that means their site traffic and their social numbers. Very similar to her point, it is about quality and not quantity. So if, for example, there's a campaign that we ran where we had we had about 10 bloggers in it, and one of them has huge numbers, like huge traffic, a huge social presence, and then there were a few others who had like smaller blog numbers, smaller presence. And the smaller blog actually she blew the campaign out of the water. Like she has just such a close relationship with her readers and her fans and her followers that she is able to drive actions where some people or some companies or some brands with bigger numbers aren't able to do that. So I think focusing less on the numbers and more on the quality of the engagement is important. And secondly, I think that treating bloggers as like a marketing channel isn't working so well. I recommend treating bloggers as partners. So in coming up with campaigns, it's great to get their feedback and to learn from them about what works for their customers, or not their customers, but their readers, and develop the campaign based on their needs and their goals, as well as on your own. So taking their input into consideration, I think, is very important.
What shouldn't you focus on social media? You shouldn't just focus on the good. The temptation is to look for great reviews, look for people who think that your product is awesome, your commercials are awesome, one of your representatives was really cool, and tweet about it. And those feel good. You should retweet those people. You should encourage them to talk about your brand. But you should focus on the people that aren't happy with you. You should focus on the people that don't understand you, and you should use those as a way to make your brand better. We love people voicing their concerns on social media. We take every tweet and every public Facebook update that we can find, and we broadcast that throughout our company. We've used it to change our business model. We've used it to change the way that we market, and we've used it to change the way that we communicate. So it's fun. It's fun to get somebody talking about how great you are, and we absolutely need those things because we care about reputation, obviously. We all do. But what we really care about is providing the customer with exactly what they want, or else we're dead in the water. So what one shouldn't do is ignore the negative.
So I agree that you shouldn't focus on the numbers necessarily, and that it's more about the quality of the engagement rather than the quantity of engagement. I think there's a tendency in social and really in anything in marketing is that when you're being held accountable to numbers, that you're working toward that number and you sort of lose the purpose of why are we in social, why are we creating this content and putting it out on the web. It's not just to drive up this percentage increase engagement month over month, because there's a lot of things that we could do on Facebook to create posts that are like bait and comment bait, and we can drive up our engagement numbers, but what's the purpose behind that piece of content that we're distributing? So I think that what is not working is being held only to the numbers without realizing or without remembering to tie back every single piece of content that you're producing to some goal that serves your business or to some brand standard or brand ideal, so that every single piece of content that you're putting out is like meeting this checklist of things that it needs to meet. Is it in the right voice? Does it have a consistent look? Are we tying it back to our brand message or our product lines, or is it directly serving to drive referrals to our website, or is it somehow going to result in ROI? And after it meets all those, then how is this piece in particular going to drive reach or engagement or whatever else we're being held accountable to measure, rather than starting with the numbers and just only trying to hit engagements or followers or likes. So it's a balance, and I think that sometimes you have to err towards producing the right content all the time than producing the content that's going to drive the numbers every time.
So that's a really good point, and you finished on a great note, because it leads us into our next question. Talk to us, you brought up a point of content, and what does it lead to if your boss or your team says, hey, it didn't get us what we wanted, more numbers, but you're saying there's all kinds of other good, and there's bad that we should look at, Will, as you said. Talk to us, Michelle, why don't we start at your end? What tools are you using to find all that other cool stuff behind this?
So for tools that we use, the main tool that we use is Sprinklr, and we use that for posting, for our workflow process to get the content into the system, get it approved by legal and through our own team, and then schedule it and get it out to the site. And we also use that for monitoring. We have different queues in there. Our customer service and other departments are tied into Sprinklr, so they use that for responding. We use another tool called Hearsay. In addition to our corporate presence on social, we also manage an agent program. So we have over 15,000 agents across the US, and they can join the Hearsay platform, and we can help them with their social presence as well, and distribute content to them that they can, with just a couple clicks, and publish out to their site. But we can also help them by monitoring what they're doing organically on social. So Hearsay is the program that we use for that, and we use Radian6 as well for social listening. And there's some other smaller tools that we use to augment the reporting that we get from Sprinklr and from Radian6, but just minor ones and probably too numerous to mention.
Yeah. So what tools do we use? On a global level, we use a ton of different tools. I mean, dozens of tools. Sprinklr, Adobe Social, Radian, Hootsuite. I could list on, if I could remember them, for quite some time. But what's important to us now is finding one unified tool to really pull everything together on a global level. And there's some challenges associated with that. So what is the one tool that we use? We don't. But we make sure to use every bit of every tool that we can that's out there, while we try to identify what that holistic experience is. Even from the simpler perspective of, if you have a global organization where people are starting up every day with the company on different levels, how do you manage the fact that 17,000 people could have access to various Twitter accounts that represent your brand? So the short answer is we're auditing that right now and trying to figure it out. The most important monitoring that we have is our community managers themselves, because I look at sentiment reports all day long, and I don't know how many of you are in social and understand how difficult sentiment reports can be, because people can use certain vernacular that is good to them but bad to sentiment reports. The real tool, the real important tool is the folks in our community management department who just get in there and say, this is what's going on, these are what the people are saying. You'll hear me repeat that a lot. That's one of the most important things in social with us, is just simply, how do people feel? So I'll go up to Adam and I'll say, hey, what's going on today in social? What can't I read in these sentiment reports? And that's my biggest tool right there, is our people.
Yeah. So let's see. For just general spreading of content throughout our different channels, our community manager uses Spreadfast for that. And one thing that we find that's really, really helpful, we do a lot of Twitter parties with the bloggers and our merchant partners, and TweetReach is a great tool for that. It provides pretty detailed reporting actually about numbers, and it also lists all of the tweets from the party. So if the merchant is interested in seeing the specific conversations happening, so that they can develop future campaigns or programs around that, that's all available to them. Yeah, I mean, we've tried, Savings.com, we started off very small, a little startup, and we were bought recently, but we still like to operate as a lean company. So we've tried a lot of the bigger tools like Radian6 and stuff like that. But yeah, we've had good luck with these smaller tools as well.
Who's used TweetReach? Raise your hand. Okay, only 2 or 3. Awesome. Kelsey, what tools are you using?
So since we have some kind of different facets of our social media departments, our care team uses Lithium Social and Radian6 together. In my PR social media area, we just adopted Radian6 and Buddy Media, which is they're the sisters of that kind of team, and they also have another one for marketing, but it allows us to, more than anything, publish in an effective way, which is the most important thing as far as my strategy and how we really want to, put information out at this time. When it comes to recapping and analytics, there is kind of a report that Buddy Media and Radian 6 can spit out for you, but for specific campaigns, or if we want to recap something that had a certain hashtag, I definitely use TweetReach. I know the only thing that kind of backfires is that it can only go back 7 days. But if you have, a one-night event that used a hashtag and it was a big Twitter chat, or you had a launch event, it makes it really easy to just put that in there and get your impressions and to see what your reach was. So those are the tools that we like to use. And then as far as presentation tools, I really like to use TweetBeam. I know there's a lot of different variations of this, but it seems to have become a big hit. We had a launch party for one of our products and services, and we gave everyone a hashtag, a card with a hashtag, and they kind of saw their tweets up on the screen, and it engages people to actually post photos. It's more of an engagement tool than anything, and people use it because it's like watching yourself on TV. So we use a big monitor, and all the tweets pop up in real time. So that's what we like to use.
Awesome. All right, so we've talked about what's working, what's not working, what tools are we using. The last one is, we've got two options. One, who's doing it right? And I know you all come from companies, brands, if you will, that are doing it right. Are there any other case studies that you're seeing that say, hey, we saw this other company, not in our industry, but they're doing social right, or they have this one case study of this one thing, either blew up in their face, or it's a great example of how they apologized and got it right? Sarah, you want to start? Looks like you have one.
Yeah, I do. I actually have two examples. So the first one is just a personal favorite of mine because I'm obsessed with this company, but it's Eat24. I hate cooking and I can't cook, and so I order in food a lot. They do a great job of really making their brand's voice consistent over all of their different channels. So on Twitter and Facebook, their commercials even are hilarious. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but they really like dedicate themselves to this kind of snarky voice. And they also are super quick about responding to consumers who tweet at them or who post stuff on Facebook. And that I feel just builds engagement and builds people are feeling like they're being heard by a company, and so they're more likely to engage with them in the future. So that's one. And a second one is the airline KLM did this really awesome thing where it was called KLM Surprise, where they monitored Twitter and Foursquare to see tweets and stuff from people who are flying on their airline and who are waiting in the airport waiting for their flights. And they found like a person, then they did a little bit of background searching on them, little Facebook stalking to see like where they were going or why they were going to the certain place. And then they bought them like a little present based on what that was or where they were going. And then they actually tracked them down in the terminal and gave them this thing. And so not only is that like, that would build brand loyalty for me if like somebody from an airline came and gave me a present. I'd be like,
or it would
awesome.
creep me out.
It would partially creep me out, but whatever.
No,
We work in
it sounds
social
great.
media. We creep. I'm just kidding. But anyway, so that builds brand loyalty. But the really great thing that I think that they did is they videoed all of that and then they put it out over their own social channels. So it got somebody like me who's never flown on KLM in my life interested in their brand, and I watched their video and I shared it and I tweeted at them. So I think that they did a really, really stellar job with that campaign.
All right, I'll call out two people up here that I think are doing a good job, and then I'll talk about, I'm sure the third one is too, but I only have two. And then there's another brand outside of this room that I think is doing really well. So I bitched recently to Time Warner Cable on Twitter, and they were on it. The person didn't know how to resolve my issue, but there was clearly a queue in place. And they got me the right person, and they got me offline quick, so I stopped complaining.
We do have the ability to roll trucks. I mean, we can roll trucks out from social media. It's all there. It's not just, and if they can't help you, they'll put you in touch with someone, and we'll get a truck to your place. Crazy, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So I was impressed by that. That was a good example of a really clean system. Farmers has a really nice integration with video content and social media going on right now that I looked at yesterday with some of our partners at YouTube. 15-second farmers, educational videos, 15 seconds
The
of
15 seconds is smart.
15 seconds of smart. Nobody watches video for more than 14 and a half seconds. You know, it's just you just don't do that on social media anymore. And these guys have gotten quick, bite-sized, snack-sized information that makes me feel a little bit smarter, gives me something to talk about the next day, gives me something to impress my friends with, and allows me to search very specifically for an answer. So they're boosting SEO as well, so I thought that was cool. From a content perspective on Facebook, I think Starbucks is really cool, and I think Coffee Bean is doing a really nice job. My rule with content on Facebook, my rule with creative on Facebook is that it just simply needs to look like the awesomest Instagram photo that any of your friends uploaded all day. If you migrate too far away from that, it's just going to make people frustrated because you're serving them an ad in the middle of their fun social media experience, and they just want to enjoy themselves and not be marketed to. Unless you're so flagrant about marketing that it becomes funny again. Think Old Spice. Starbucks has a way of really catching the seasonality, catching the feeling and the sentiment of what's going on right now, and throwing a little Starbucks cup in that picture. Going back to school, we know how it feels. $3, Starbucks cup, and you're like, I've been there. And then you scroll through and you like it and you move on with your day. Those are the three that I can think of right now.
Cool.
I also have a Time Warner story. When I was moving at the beginning of the summer, I was so frustrated with all the utilities accounts that I had to like close and open and move, and I just tweeted, why can't I set up my Time Warner cable via Twitter? And I absolutely could. So like within the hour they had contacted me, took it offline. Someone called me directly. I didn't even have to call and go through the system. And I got my cable set up, they waived the setup fee, and I was done like that. It was the easiest thing, and it was just because I was frustrated and tweeted about it. But I tweeted probably the main Time Warner handle, and then the regional one and the Time Warner Help followed me immediately and got in contact with me.
They'll find you.
But as far as a brand that I feel like does a good job on social across multiple channels is Nordstrom, and they really bring their customer service values to social as well and do a very good job there. They're very engaging, not just when it's a service issue, but just I actually happen to tweet about Nordstrom a lot because I shop at Nordstrom a lot and buy too much stuff there. So they interact with me a lot on Twitter, and they always are very helpful too. Like I had tweeted that I had some Nordstrom Rewards dollars that were expiring and I was going to go spend them, and they said, oh, by the way, remember that you can buy a gift card with these and then your gift card doesn't expire, which was information I absolutely needed right then and did not know. But they also do, from a business perspective, they're doing a phenomenal job of using Facebook ad retargeting. And because as I mentioned, I shop at Nordstrom a lot, I see Nordstrom ads on my Facebook all the time, but it's exactly stuff that I want to see because they're retargeting me. They know what I've seen on their website. Clearly I'm interested in those shoes because I looked at them 2 times in the past month on their websites. I don't know that I have clicked on their ads. I don't know that I've bought anything, but it certainly keeps Nordstrom top of mind for me, and they're doing a good job with their retargeting buys on Facebook. They also are doing a very good job on Pinterest, which I don't see the service piece as much on Pinterest, but they're doing a better product and sales sort of push on Pinterest. And then a company recently that I've taken note of on Facebook that I feel like is doing well is Fast Company. And one thing that we have discovered through our reporting is that text status updates get a higher reach, but they do not get higher engagement. So more people will see them, but less people will engage with them, at least for us. But I think that our analyst in doing some research was finding out that this is maybe true for other companies as well. And what Fast Company does is they'll take an excerpt from the article and they'll include the link, a short link. They'll delete the link preview and not include a photo. So it reads to Facebook as a text status update. And I see tons of them from Fast Company, but they're also doing a very good job of curating their own content. So I probably click on 2 Fast Company articles a day, which for me is very high to click on links out of my Facebook feed. And they're always interesting and relevant. I don't notice them as much on Twitter, but I feel like they're using Facebook very well. And It's only been within the last couple months because I know I've been following Fast Company for a long time and have only in the past couple months started clicking on their stuff.
Very cool. Kelsey, you want to give us an example?
So I won't give a Time Warner Cable example, but thank you all for throwing that in there. Just for I think all of us in this room, it's really just a sign of the times. You know, we are relying on social media for things that we never would have thought we would rely on it for. But I did want to talk about a couple of other brands. I mean, I'm in the cable industry, and I get every single channel that there is for free, and I never used to watch TV, and now I watch it all the time. But I think one thing that really works for certain brands is if you're watching Bravo, there is a hashtag at the bottom right screen of every single show, every single time. And sometimes they have the scrolls, they have all that going, and to me, it's just something that's so genius because all the different shows have different hashtags. And they use it on Instagram, they use it on Twitter, they talk about it consistently and constantly. And I mean, people, it's like you want to be part of the show. It's like being on the people's couch. And it really does.
A little plug for all of you that haven't tweeted yet today. We have an
Yes.
TV show right here in front of you.
So, I mean, it's just, if you're sitting somewhere and you're watching something, you're going to be like, I cannot believe she said that hashtag. You know, it just works. And I have friends that don't even tweet about things that I think are important, but they will surely tweet about the Real Housewives. So I think that is just a different type of phenomenon altogether. And it depends. It's like shows are cults. You know, Scandal has the biggest, I mean, their hashtags on Thursday nights are huge. One example that I want to talk about, I mean, I deal with a lot of crisis communication, and we do get complaints from big-time celebrities. Big-time celebrities. I mean, Ariana Huffington has complained. We've had Patrick Stewart reach out to us. I mean, it's just, we really do get that feedback, not just from all of our customers, but we treat all of our customers equally. One of the things that I thought American Airlines handled really well, and I have to look down at my notes just because I want to make sure I don't say anything incorrectly, but Alec Baldwin refused to turn off his mobile device. I guess now that's not really a problem, but it was a big blow up. He tweeted about it. In the beginning, it seemed that everybody was on his side, and everybody was like, oh, it's such a pain. Well, the crisis communications team with American Airlines, you know, their social media team got together, rallied up, and they basically put together a really good campaign and a number of talking points that said, hey, this applies to everybody. You know, just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean that you're the exception. And it kind of changed perspective along the social sphere, saying, okay, that's right. You know, just because, you know, we're all following FAA rules. Same thing, you know, with any other organization. So
what
I thought.
What was the tweet they sent out? Do you remember what that was?
It basically said, well, he has 5 million. So there said, let me see if I wrote it down. That the celebrity that did not want to get off the plane was scrutinized. That AA was merely following FAA rules that applied to everyone, Baldwin included. So they did kind of put the actual situation at hand. It just applies to everybody. And
there was some humor in it too, though, wasn't there?
A little bit, and
a little bit of humor in it.
I'm a big fan of that. I mean, I don't know if another thing that was really, and this may or may not be, this is just another funny thing that I think works. There was 2 DJs that are kind of popular, not really popular, and I think it was like Tiesto or Cascade, but one of them was leaving the LAX airport and was like, and this has to do with the Dodgers, and I thought this was so funny. One of the DJs was like, oh, leaving LA, like he was like throwing his like Dodgers hat in the trash, or he's like, can't wait to like leave Dodgers territory. And then the Dodgers replied and said, it's cool, we like Cascade better anyways. So it was a ballsy thing to do.
Yeah.
It was that took guts, but I thought it was really funny. And if the day ever comes where I can do that, I'd be so happy. Like Zach Galifianakis complaining about CBS, and I'm like, you don't even have a show right now, so. what are you gonna do, dude? So yeah, those are my good examples.
All right, this is where we get into the last question. I think this is the best panel to ask this question, and it seems a little personal to all of you, but you were asked on your surveys. Tell us about a blunder your company's made that might not be humorous at the time, but now it's really funny, and what you learned from it.
And no one talks.
Yeah.
I'll go first.
I'll do it.
I'm trying to think of the best one.
So in the very beginning of working with the bloggers 5 years ago, we held a conference. That was our first like face-to-face interaction with this group, and our CEO got up and he said something about mommy bloggers, which I know was discussed earlier in a different panel. And later, there was this kind of a hush in the room when he said the term mommy blogger. And later on we had like a party afterwards, and one of the women came up and she was like, we're business people. Like, would you like it if we called you a daddy CEO? Like, we're business women. And so, I think that's just something in general that our company has learned over the years is to really treat these bloggers as professional business people. They're all entrepreneurs starting their own businesses, and so they should be, treated with the respect of a business person, of a partner, not just a blogger.
I'll give a really, really dumb example. Well, I've been at Farmers for 6 weeks, so I've made no blunders yet. But this is from when I was at Edmunds.com, and it was like such an amateur mistake. Like, don't ever use your personal accounts and your business accounts in the same posting platform. Like, I was using, I think I was using TweetDeck, and I just had everything all in one. And so, of course, I posted a personal tweet to the Edmunds feed. But it wasn't too bad. I had sat outside for lunch, and the chairs were a little wet, so I tweeted that, like, I was sitting on a wet butt all afternoon because of lunch. And the Edmunds feed was very, like, personality-driven because we had a lot of editors who were posting, and they were empowered to post in their own voice. And I deleted it, like, 2 minutes later, but I already had like 3 replies. So it wasn't, for Edmunds, it wasn't too inappropriate. No one even really noticed, and it's not like I would have gotten fired, but I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I mean, that's such an amateur mistake. But then I started using Hootsuite for personal, TweetDeck for Edmunds. So.
That's a really good tip. Different dashboards. Different dashboards. I'm thinking right now.
Blunders, I just can't seem to get to work on time. I mean, that drive on the 405 down to Orange County is difficult. No, I'm kidding. That is something I need to work on. But no, looking back, I think that not fighting the battle from the very beginning to include social in campaigns has been something that I've seen go badly. If I'd rather make an enemy, a temporary enemy at work now, than let something get past a campaign, past a concept of a new product, without thinking about how this is going to look on social in the future and how people are going to be able to share it, interact with it, and own it as a socially driven product.
So I can think of a few, but I think that the most important kind of thing that I've taken away is when it comes to social media strategy. I mean, this is all very new and it's evolving. I feel like sometimes I hold back, or I don't do something that I think would work, or I'm not sure if it would work, or I didn't find a case study that this didn't happen. Take the plunge, see if something's gonna work. And I haven't done that, and then I regret it because then I see somebody else that did it, and I'm like, it's like that $1 million idea or something tiny that I just didn't give myself, enough of a push, or I didn't feel confident enough to bring in that social strategy, or, should we have 100 bloggers, or should we just have 2, or should we, start this type of campaign, or, things like that, or things that I should bring up in meetings. Like, I'll be sitting in a meeting, and we're in a Wi-Fi meeting, and we're talking about like, let's do, where are we going to do Wi-Fi? And I'm sitting here like, South by Southwest, and then we can do a big social media campaign. If I hadn't opened up my mouth, it would have never happened. Little things like that, like don't second guess yourself. Just, I mean, it could turn into a big disaster, but you'll never know until you try.
Yeah, I think risk and challenge and
Yeah.
disasters are all really important to push from a social media perspective. I mean, I kind of secretly want somebody to tweet like about their butt just to see what happens, you know? If you
It's
come
funny,
from,
everybody replies.
yeah, I mean, you probably got more followers. People probably felt more connected to your company. They realized you're a real person. They're like, that is authenticity right there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not transparent and authentic going in and you tweet about your butt, it might be more difficult. But it's a great opportunity to say like, oops, I'm a real person. Here I am. Here's the rest of my body. You know. So yeah, risk is important.
And
Oh,
it
well-
totally happens. I mean, I've called. So we sponsor a lot of red carpet events through our marketing department. I've totally called the celebrity the wrong name or things like that. But that's just because I have lists of handles that I'm going through, and you're trying to figure things out. I mean, I didn't mess up on the big ones like James Franco, but there's other ones that I just completely blundered. And people will reply to you and be like, hello, but it's just little blunders like that you'll never do it again. You'll never
I think
do it
for
again.
social too, we're really in a good position to take those kind of risks because we don't have to take a risk in social. Not something necessarily like a big Wi-Fi sponsorship at a giant conference, but to take a risk in social, there's a much lower barrier to entry than there are in other sorts of more traditional marketing initiatives or advertising. So I think the appetite for it, even at a large company, traditional company like Farmers, is a little bigger than it is for some big print campaign or some big advertising campaign. We can take the risk first in social because we don't have to spend a lot of money on it necessarily to do so, and the impact is potentially smaller than something else. I mean, for a big brand like this.
And I think if you royally screw up and you see it on Mashable, the story that you read about on Mashable is not simply that you screwed up. It's how you handled it afterwards that gets people's attention. Yeah. And if you're set up properly and you're ready to absorb that, and you got some contingency plans in place, and you just want to take some risks, and you're just like, bring it on, let's see what happens. That's that story that could really drive your company and show just how real you are.
And at Time Warner Cable, we're all about the PR stories. We love, my goal is to get as much press, retweet the press, all that on our handles. But there was a story about, I think it was on like PR News or Reagan's or something, that was like, who's winning the CBS Time Warner Cable battle on social media? And they had diagrams, and I was like, oh, great, well, here we go. Now it's, my work that's actually being held under the microscope. And it's really interesting to see, how the public perceives it, to how hard you work to put those campaigns together. But they had basically said, we won the content and wording, but they just won the public opinion point of view because people weren't really educated on it. But it's really interesting to, like you were saying, just to see what articles are on there. And I mean, it may be a blunder. Next time I might have to come up with a better social strategy on how to let folks know, why we're in these retrans battles, or, different things like that. But then 2 weeks later, we had a story on our customer care team in a New York paper and a Buffalo paper. So it's give and take.
All right, really quick. You all have an event survey in the back. I want you to fill out what panel topics should we include for the next summit. I want you to think about that right now, because I don't want it to be at the end of the day and I have this huge 20-person free catering from our friends at Chipotle, whoever that is, and you're like, oh, I don't have time to turn it in. I have to go and pick the kids up from the school and stuff like that, Jeff Brown. So I want you to fill this out. It should be done by the end of the day, so now's the time to think about it. I have time for 2 questions really quick, social media, tactical questions. Nothing big, nothing 40,000 foot, like let's dive in deep. Patty.
Sarah, I'm interested in some of the tactics you used in your blogger outreach.
Sure. So in the beginning, a lot of it was done with a PR agency. So they had a social team. They did a lot of research and they reached out to people. But we found over time that it's best to keep that in-house so that the messaging is authentic and from us. So in the beginning, it was looking through. I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the tool because it was 5 years ago and it probably doesn't exist anymore. But there was some Twitter tool where you could actually you could pull people out by different categories, and so we were looking for deal bloggers in particular, and I would just reach out to them, let them know what our game was, what we were doing, and then in the beginning it was bringing them to that conference, and so it was saying this is what we're doing, this is why we're interested in meeting with you. Would you be interested in coming to this conference? And that right off the bat was a way to let them know that we were really serious about having a relationship with them, because we brought them out to San Francisco and hung out with them for a couple of days. So yeah, that's how it all started. And now because it's 5 years later and our network has grown to almost 250 bloggers, a lot of it is spreading by word of mouth now. We're just a great company to work with because we develop programs that are really beneficial to their businesses, and that spreads very quickly. Bloggers are very chatty. They talk a lot amongst themselves. So it's spreading by word of mouth now.
And if you can't find the name of that, I don't know if there's any other analytics or programs that you guys have where you can actually do that. I would be really interested to find that out, because Radian6 doesn't really find bloggers for you, but that's super helpful. That's a great question.
It's not necessarily that it found the bloggers. It just found social media influencers, and then you can go and do a little bit of background on them and see if they have a blog.
I think you're talking about follower walk. No.
What is it?
Follower walk. You can change the metrics. I want someone who has these specific target words in their profile. You can look at their demographic. You can see how many followers they have, and then if they do have any kind of social media presence out there.
Can you say the name again?
Follower wonk.
It's a tool that SEO Moz has.
Yeah, it's one of their, it's really
I
cool.
think that's one that.
And it also looks at, what you have in common with other people too. It's kind of cool over that. All right, we have time for one more tactical question, and then we have to move on. Any questions on social? Yes, in the red?
You guys didn't mention, you didn't talk about the strategy on Pinterest or Instagram, which are obviously sort of the newer ones. Do you guys, are you active there, or?
So I'll talk about it a little bit and then let everybody else go. Our Instagram, Pinterest pages are ran by our digital marketing team, just because it's a different audience than news and information. It's kind of more entertainment for our end. So if we do things on Instagram, it's exclusive to a red carpet, or a picture of Sean Combs because we just launched the Revolt Network. It's more entertainment and trends and things like that. And then Pinterest is pretty much the same thing. It's a total different audience for us, and it's really just about knowing your audience and demographics.
Instagram for us is our people and our culture. Speaking to freecreditscore.com, it's our people and it's our culture. It's Movember, which is why I have this creepy thing right now. We went downtown to help with this organization because of something greater that's happening in social media with us right now, and with you, our people. We met this individual person who uses our product. We're here with our sponsor, somebody that we sponsor rather. This race car driver, this celebrity, and he's connecting with you personally and with us. That's Instagram. Pinterest is becoming more and more important with us for freecreditscore.com, because credit scores kind of suck. They're kind of boring. They're scary. You don't want to approach them. But we're super nerdy about what we can really discover with credit. Like we know that cat lovers have better credit than dog lovers. We know that if you own a certain type of pet, you're 3 times more likely to buy a Maserati in your lifetime. I mean, that's cool. That's really interesting. So we use Pinterest as a way to share that information and lightly get people interested in. Don't quote me on that cat thing. I don't know if it's dog lovers or cat lovers, but I'm a dog lover. Anyway, so we use Pinterest as a way to communicate those fun little bite-sized pieces of information about credit score to make it approachable, fun, shareable, and say hey, it doesn't suck as much as you thought it did. It's actually kind of interesting.
Cool.
I have a question, actually, for everybody. I need some help finding a software or a vendor. We're wanting to do some crowd sort of video things, and I need an iPad app that lets you take a video and then lets that person temporarily log into their social account and share it out to their social account, and then once it's shared, their login is erased. And I know that I've used an app like this at South by Southwest at a couple party installations, but I'm having trouble locating a good app for that. So if anyone knows, please come talk to me afterwards.
And you can tweet at her too. Her Twitter handle is on our page. And use the hashtag so that we can all see it if you don't mind. Let's give a round of applause for these awesome people.